Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the Knowing Who podcast. This is episode 2. My name is Ben. I'm joined by...
Miles Taylor.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Miles Taylor.
Yeah, as if I'm a special guest.
Yes, I'm joined by the other person who does this podcast with me. This is a podcast where we talk all things Doctor Who.
We do. We talk all things as well.
Yes,
but
we do.
Mainly
but
Doctor
that's
Who.
normally in our spare time. This is obviously paid time.
Yeah, you have to pay for the Patreon if you want to hear us talk about the stuff.
Yeah. And if you want us to make a Patreon, let us know.
Please do.
What are we doing this week? Last week, actually. Let's start with last week.
Let's start with last week, because a week ago, our podcast launched and it was really...
It did.
Lovely. Yeah,
it did.
Had a lovely response. We've had loads of listens on Spotify. We're now on Apple Podcasts as well.
Yes, last week we weren't.
We had a few YouTube listens and things. It's been really nice. So thank you to all of you for the support. Thank you to all the other pods out there. Thank you to Josh Carr of Who Knew. Thank you to the guys at Awful Lot of Running. Thank you to everyone who's been retweeting and posting and sharing it around, because it's been absolutely lovely.
And we've been hearing loads of great reviews as well from people we know and people we don't know, which is great.
Mainly family members.
Mostly family.
But yes.
And colleagues.
And colleagues, yeah.
But yeah, no, we've heard great things, and it's really nice to know that we're actually doing something good.
Yeah, and we're getting things out there as well. And it's going to be interesting going further down the line once we've reviewed the series to kind of see what's going to become of this and what future episodes we'll do. But more on that later. For now, we've got a brand new series.
We do.
We've got a 2-episode premiere.
Season. We've got a brand new season.
I know, that's going to take a bit of getting used to.
I know. Even on the iPlayer, it says season 1, which just feels weird.
It does feel a bit strange, but throwing it back to the classic series when we had seasons then, so it's... Yeah, I mean, but it's a kind of an American thing, I think, to have a
Very
season,
much so,
isn't it? So I'm liking that. I'm liking that a lot. And we got our 2-episode premiere, Space Babies and the Devil's Chord. And just to let you know, listeners, Ben and I have not spoken since Friday. I'd say properly
Friday night, I got
Friday.
a message off of Miles at, I think it was about 10 o'clock or maybe 10:30, and he said, "Right, I'm logging off, and you're not gonna hear anything from me until tomorrow."
Yeah.
And I then stayed up and watched it live in air quotes at midnight. And
I was knackered, so I didn't bother. I decided to watch it on broadcast. I thought, I'd be in a different headspace, and also it gives us 2 different opinions. You've watched it, boom. It's just you didn't watch Boom. That's next week. But you watched it as soon as it dropped. I watched it at the scheduled time, and I have to say it was a bit tricky. I did feel like I was getting a bit antsy as I got
waiting
through
for it.
Waiting for it. So who knows? I mean, I think I'm probably going to go for a few breakfast viewings in the future.
Yeah, I think I will as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll do at least one midnight viewing, maybe 73 Yards, because that's meant to be the Welsh folk horror kind of one, isn't it?
So midnight would add to the vibe.
Yeah, I think so. So who knows? But yeah, 2 different perspectives.
When I was watching, this is just a fun little fact, I was continually also looking out the window because there was meant to be an Aurora Borealis.
Yes,
I couldn't see a thing.
Well, probably clouds in it.
No, it was bright. It was light pollution. I assume.
I mean, it's great publicity for the Doctor Who marketing team.
Perfect.
They've been doing great Match of the Day stuff, the Radio 1 interruption, and Aurora Borealis the night
it was planned.
It drops. It was amazing.
TV license money went into that Aurora Borealis.
Yeah, that's what we're paying for. Good. I mean, I'd pay to see the Aurora Borealis. In fact, I'd love to see the Aurora.
Did you see it that night?
I didn't. No.
Everyone was posting about it. I couldn't see a thing. I'm going to start off. Miles doesn't know about this, but I've gotten him a little present.
Oh my god!
And I've got one as well.
I have no idea what this is.
This is one I've prepared earlier to stick on the front of your Knowing Who journal.
Oh my goodness me! Hey, look at this.
So there's your one.
Look at that. For reference viewers, Ben has just shown me a sticker with our Knowing Who logo, the Spotify. He's just dropped on the floor.
I've thrown it at him and it fell.
It is a Knowing Who logo, Spotify QR code thing,
whatever it is,
and my name in big bold letters,
big bold Doctor Who font.
Thank you for that, Ben. You know what?
You can stick that on the front. It's on the front of mine, and we'll put this on the Twitter, I think, so that you guys can see what we're talking about.
Yeah, we will. We'll post this. What a lovely start!
There we go. Isn't that fun?
And as for another lovely start, let's talk about Space Babies. Spabies. I was going to say Spabies.
Someone
as well,
said that to me today. I was rewatching it today just before I got here.
Spabies.
And someone I've never met before, who's a friend of my girlfriend's flatmate, called it Spabies.
Tenuous link, but yes,
it's a very tenuous link.
Why not? Go on, Ben. Take us off to a good start and tell me, what did you think overall?
I think this is going to be quite a controversial thing to say.
I'm ready. Embraced.
I think, at least on my first viewing, this was my favourite of the two.
Oh, you know what? I genuinely was thinking, actually, this is going to happen, because for context viewers, I much preferred The Devil's Chord to Space Babies.
And we'll
I
leave
thought
discussion about The Devil's Chord for a bit.
We'll be talking about that in a bit, but I was almost certain. I was like, I'm going to come in and Ben's going to have enjoyed Space Babies more than Devil's Chord, I think. So, yeah.
I mean, enjoyed is a strong word. I think both of them were good.
Okay.
But at least, again, on first viewing, I thought Space Babies was my favourite of the two.
Right.
On my second viewing, I think they're more even. I don't know, have you watched them twice, or have you just watched the once?
I have. I thought I wasn't going to be able to, but I have watched them twice. Yeah. Yes, I have. So, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I think it's got a couple sort of pacing problems, possibly. And it feels a bit, I don't know, the new era feels a bit sort of shiny and new and polished and a bit not enough like Doctor Who for me. But I'm sure that'll go away when I get used to it. But as an opener, I thought this was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
It was doing very much what this new era is trying to do. It's trying to bring new people on board. This is season 1 for all intents and purposes, and something that I literally thought on the way in, I'm so glad that they did a 2-episode season premiere, because Space Babies it's a warm-up, really. It's perfect for people who are just about to get into the show, because you've got everything explained near, sometimes it's crammed in there, and sometimes it does feel a bit like, whoa, surely this is an overload of information, but it makes sense. And I think we might have been slightly disappointed if that's all we got on its own.
Yeah,
because Devil's Chord is a much more not traditional Doctor Who episode by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something new, it's something different. So to have something quite run of the mill first, and then also have the other thing after that as well, I think was a very clever idea, and might have even been the reason for doing that, because I think Russell might have felt like, well, look, we need to have an episode like Space Babies for this new audience, the Nuvians, and we also need to bear in mind that there's going to be fans watching this who this is very much kind of like, well, we know this, So that's what left me, after I'd finished watching Space Babies, feeling a bit deflated, maybe is the best word.
I know what you mean. So after I watched it, I mean, don't get me wrong, when I was watching it, I was smiling the whole way through. It's new Doctor Who, after all.
100%.
Especially because I was watching it at midnight and I was a bit delirious.
I assume a lot of fans would have been the same state.
Especially by the end of episode 2, it was 2 a.m. and I'm just... very strange way to spend a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
But... where was I going with this? I enjoyed it the whole way through. Like, genuinely. Good. I thought it was fun. It was a lot of fun. There were weird moments, like the talking CGI mouths. Despite what they say on Unleashed.
So I haven't seen Unleashed. Okay. Yeah, what tidbits have you got
in
for
Unleashed, they do this sort of one-on-one bit with the VFX supervisor and the host, which I forgot.
Stefan Powell.
The
Welshest person you've ever met in your life.
Very Welsh.
Yeah, very Welsh.
Sorry, Owen? Stefan. Yeah, Owen's the weather guy.
Do the decency of remembering his name.
Stefan, I know you're listening, and I'm very sorry.
He's a big fan of Yorkshire tea. That's a good man in my books.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, Stefan does this one-on-one interview with the head of the VFX department, and at the very end of it, and it's very impressive what they do. They have these child voice actors who do the voices of the babies and the actual babies, and they shoot the babies on the set, and then they sort of stitched the voice actors' mouths on top.
I see.
But they sort of, what they do is they model the kids, as in the actual voice actor kids, they model their mouths, and then they model the children's, like the babies' mouths,
right?
And they sort of merge them.
Like a hybrid.
Oh
my God.
And technically... that is very impressive.
Yeah.
Visually, I wasn't a fan.
Do you know what it is? I think it's the eyes. Because the eyes
they don't
very clearly say, this baby is not thinking these things. This baby is thinking, where is my mother? Where is my food?
Yes.
I have a business going downstairs.
Exactly.
Need to be sorted out.
But and then Stefan ends it with, oh my God, it's amazing. I'm not doing the accent. Oh my God, it's amazing and it's brilliant and it's the best thing I've ever seen. Which, I mean, I think he might be...
maybe exaggerating a tiny bit, but you're right. I love the the ingenuity behind it. Obviously, a lot of thought was put into it, and there's only so much you can do. But I was quite distracted by Eric in particular, who always looked like he'd had an accident in his nappy. Like I think that poor child.
Well, he does have an accident.
I mean,
he does.
There we go. So if anything, he's quite method.
Exactly, he's a method actor.
I quite like that. So, but yes, I appreciated the kind of idea behind it. I loved the prams. I thought having prams be their vehicles for getting around, super clever.
Here's a question for you, since you haven't watched Unleashed. How do you think they were powered? Because they moved in the episode. How do you think that was done? No.
They're powered by an RC Dalek from the
I wish.
character options
I
range.
think from what I got, they were meant to be RC,
right?
But because there's live babies in them, they're not allowed.
Of course.
So what it is men in green morph suits with green sticks.
Well, you know
which they completely CGI out, and
they did a good job with that. To be fair,
they did a great job with that.
I did not pin that down.
So that was a great effect.
Interesting.
And then the same, I think, with the big pointers that they press buttons with on the big pulley system. That's sort of puppeted a bit, not by green men. I think that is an almost practical
effect. They can't
effect.
puppet real life babies.
No, there are puppet babies. I don't know if you saw this anywhere because you haven't watched Unleashed, but they have these horrifying baby stand-ins. Because the babies can only be on set for 2 hours a day.
Sure.
So when they're not the focus of the shot, they have these really horrible dolls.
I'm not surprised.
And they're horrific.
I've got quite into Casualty lately. Not for... I know it's a very random show to get into. Yeah. But they use those kind of fake babies in that as well, which is also shot in Cardiff, Wales, near the studios.
Used to be shot across the road in the same studios.
Exactly. So they probably just went, "Oh, do you want a few babies? There you go. Got some creepy ones. The creepy the better." Talking of creepy, let's talk Bogeyman. The
booger
monster.
The booger man.
The booger man monster.
The bogeyman.
Yeah.
The bogeyman. I think he was a very scary bogeyman. Lived up to his name.
Yeah, it was a kind of an alien situation in the sense of quite obviously a man in a suit, but shot in such a way that wasn't as obvious, I don't think. I think that the way they chose Julianne Robinson, who was the director, the way she chose camera angles and CCTV shots and all that sort of stuff, I think that kind of hid the fact that obviously this is just a man in a big suit, but very gooey, very slimy, gooey, and
it was all
organic.
How was it? It was all like a latexy sort of thing. This in Unleashed, they sort of go into it. The whole walls were made of this slimy latex goo. Well, not made of, but covered in this slimy latex goo, and the same went on him. And apparently, the costume itself just stank.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, because the way they make it apparently uses ammonia. So it's literally the smell of ammonia.
Doctor Who, causing actors to have to go to solvent abuse yet again.
Exactly.
There's a story, Ben, I won't go on too much of a tangent, but Warriors of the Deep in 1984, Peter Davidson's story, they did a monster costume for this creature called the Merker. You'll know the Merker? No, the Sea Devils.
Oh, well, I knew it was
the
Sea Devils
like creature.
Cool.
So the costume was barely ready. I think they'd only just finished painting it, and the actors got into it on set. It had only just been done, and the fumes of it basically made them high.
Nice.
So it's good to know that's continuing. They got meth as well. Yeah, it's good that's continuing to this day.
Exactly.
And I actually felt sorry for the bogeyman at the end.
Yeah, when they tried to kill him.
That was there was the one thing that I think I liked. I enjoyed that little twist of this bogeyman has been created by the same baby maker, the same machine.
Yeah.
It is just as much a child as the rest of these, and I think Shooty was the one who sold that for me because that look that he gives it.
Shooty and Millie, they carried this episode.
Well, let's talk about them both. Who do you want to talk about first?
I don't know which one to start with. I'll go with Shooty because he's the Doctor.
Go with Shooty.
He is. He is the main character after all. The show is named after him.
The Shooty show.
The Shooty show. He's bloody excellent. Yeah. He's great. He's slipped in straight away. Like compared to what we talked about last week in the last episode at Christmas, he's more in this one, obviously. And he's running around, he's doing Doctor things, he's shouting at Ruby at one point, and he gets proper mad at Ruby to go and stop the Booger Man from dying.
Yep.
And then he saves the day when he goes in there and almost dies himself in the airlock.
Yep.
I think it's brilliant, and Ncuti really carries that Doctor energy.
Yeah.
And also, talking about Ncuti, I just want to say, when I rewatched this episode today, I was with my girlfriend, and she's told me not to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. To quote, she said, "He's got a good bum, hasn't he?" Which I think most Doctor Who fans noticed months ago. I'm glad that even casuals are now noticing.
We'll do an episode on Doctor's bums, I'm sure. We'll do a ranking. ranking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I laughed when I was told that, and I thought,
lovely. I mean, if nothing, I mean, look, it's
all the running he does. He's the Doctor.
A lot of running, a lot of bum shots, and I think you're right. I think there's always an element of you when there's a new Doctor that you're kind of, as a fan, you're like, well, go on, impress me, give me that scene that tells me that you're the Doctor.
Yeah.
And I think Ncuti, I don't know if he's quite got there for me yet personally, but I think he's really getting there. And there were so many moments in this one, Space Babies in particular, that really got there. Obviously the moment with Captain Poppy when he's sort of saying, there's only one of me in the whole wide universe, beautiful stuff. The whole thing about, you've not grown up wrong. Gorgeous. And
actually, I'm going to say, just while you've brought that up, I think that speech should have been at the end.
I agree, actually,
because it was basically one of the first things he says to the babies.
Yeah.
When it should have been, the moral of the entire story.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
That should have been the end, and instead it ended on a fart joke.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah. After the baddie being made of boogers.
Yeah,
it's an interesting way to start.
A very interesting way to conclude it, but I think that the way that, like you say, the way that Ncuti carried it, I think he's got a great energy. I think that the thing that maybe makes it harder for me to accept him as the Doctor initially was he's got a different type of eccentricity to most of the Doctors.
Yeah.
I think someone like Jodie, they went with the kind of socially awkward eccentricity kind of angle. With someone like Tom Baker, it was more alien and just mad.
Yeah.
So with Ncuti, it's kind of a confident eccentricity. It's that person in the room who would come in wearing the extravagant clothes, drawing your eye because they are just that confident. And I think that's what it is. I'm getting used to this new Doctor, and I absolutely love Ncuti and the energy that he brings to that. And I can't wait to start to love this Doctor, because I already am.
Yeah,
I definitely already am. I can't wait to see what else he does with it, because there's little things like he's always trauma dumping with a smile on his face.
Yeah, he is.
He'll say, that moment, very first scene of Space Babies, where he's like, "Gone," the time
really loud.
Gone.
He just goes,
but he's got that big grin on his face, and it's almost like, has this Doctor developed a coping mechanism for all this trauma? Is this Doctor just putting on a brave face, and are we going to see that crumble?
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see where that goes.
They made a point at the end of the giggle to say 15 isn't going to have all this trauma and all this weight to his character.
I beg to differ,
almost
sir.
Straight away, he's sort of, sure, he's got a smile on his face, but he's still bringing it up. I feel like I thought the whole point of this was to not mention this again, but no, they keep doing. I mean, and also talking about trauma dumping, they keep bringing up that he was adopted.
They do
in both episodes, but a lot in this one.
What do you think of that?
I mean, I'm kind of glad that it's not being ignored.
Yeah,
but also like, we know. You keep telling us this, and I guess it's deliberate. It's deliberately. I feel like it's going to probably be a plot point later in the series. Mm-hmm. What a coincidence! And talking about coincidences, there's a lot of coincidences.
There's a lot
in
of
this
coincidences,
story, which I thought
is that the point?
Exactly, because they talk. Oh, it's always about you and babies. Yep. You and Christmas. It's always you and Christmas and babies and snow. What a coincidence!
Yeah.
So that's really. That's got to be deliberate, I think.
Oh well, come on then. Let's have a quick chat about Ruby as well.
Yeah.
Because I love Millie Gibson. Just like at Christmas, I think she's a fantastic companion. She's got a real naturalistic angle to her, again from her soap acting, like we said last time. What did you think?
I think there's that brilliant scene in the snot monster's lair when, after she's been dripped on by the snot, and then they find out what that is. They find out that it is baby snot.
Yeah.
And she's, the script is saying, I don't know what this is, but you can tell by the look on her face, she knows exactly what the Doctor's getting at and does not want it to be snot.
Yeah.
And then there's that bit where he goes, "It's snot." And she goes, "It's not." And it's just the look on her face is so serious. And it's a good comedic scene, and I really love them in that.
She plays off Ncuti so well. They both play each other so well.
And if you see them, they did a couple interviews for the build-up to the premiere, and you can see them together in these interviews, and they're exactly the same in real life than they are as the Doctor and Ruby.
Similar to Matt and Karen, the 11th Doctor and Amy. That's that kind of vibe that they more so as the era developed, they started to bring parts of themselves to the characters. I think Ncuti and Millie were like, should we just bring this straight away?
I mean, I've seen, not a lot, but I've seen a couple people online sort of almost complain, saying, well, they shouldn't be this pally so close to just meeting, and that they're too close. They need to build that relationship. And it just sort of happens straight away.
I can totally see what that.
I don't know if I would complain about that, but like it is a valid sort of thing to point and look at. Because compared to other companions, they have a couple stories before they get used to the Doctor.
They're very cuddly and close very quickly.
Yeah.
You're right. There was a part of me that was like, don't we need to see this develop a bit? But then I kind of think of it a bit like, I mean, they literally met in a club, but it's like, those people that you meet in a club on a night out, and then suddenly you're just like pally and
besties.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, who cares? I kind of like that. I think that it fits Ruby's character. Ruby, like we said last time, she's kind of do first, ask questions later. It's exactly that in this episode when she's like, "Oh, I've messed up here. I've told Eric to go and do this," and and she runs. I love the little bit when she's like, "Okay, right, we need to get the bogeyman." She just grabs a pipe and starts banging it against the wall, and is like, "Oh yeah, don't think about the repercussions that you might actually be ripped apart. Just do it." And I love that. I think that's fantastic.
And the bit when the Doctor sends her off to go back upstairs and be safe while he gets the TARDIS,
and she's like, "No,"
and she said, "No, I'm just going to stay here. I'll follow you."
And of course, we've got that moment at the end when there's a little scan being done of Ruby and the TARDIS.
I saw a very interesting tweet about that scan. Okay. This is a quick side note, but the 3D model that they use on that scan of Millie is actually the one that they have used for the character options Ruby Sunday action figure.
It is indeed.
Which I think is really cool.
I love that. Get your character options figure.
I mean, the person, I can't remember who's put this on Twitter, but I don't know. I mean, it looks like it, and my first thought when I saw it was, oh, that looks like the action figure that leaked. But I watched Unleashed, and I thought, oh, maybe there'll be a little sort of saying, oh yeah, we got this from the action figure guys. They didn't. There was no mention of it, so it's not confirmed, I guess. But,
maybe we'll find out.
It definitely looks like it from the pictures we've seen. It looks like it.
But what is that scan? Why is the Doctor doing that scan?
Who is Ruby?
Maybe this will tell us a bit more. I know that we had a thing with Ruby Road where we were like, why is he following this girl around? Why? Yeah. Why?
Maybe he knew something.
Exactly.
First.
Maybe there's a reason why the Doctor's found Ruby. And I have a little bit of a theory. Is she the Rani? She's the Rani.
Yeah.
It probably is going to be as good as that. But there was a dropped storyline in Series 1. I don't know if you know about this. The original Series 1.
I've probably heard it at some point.
There was going to be an episode where the 9th Doctor, it would turn out, had actually been almost developing Rose Tyler, as the perfect companion. Very strange, I know. And it was going to be written by a writer that Russell was very fond of. Can't remember the name. Is there a bit of that here, maybe? The Doctor seems to know more than he's letting on.
Well, I think if he knew the answer, he wouldn't have run the scan.
Is he checking how she's doing? Is she cooked yet?
Possibly. Is she cooked yet?
But the Doctor obviously... I mean, I'm not saying that specifically, but the Doctor definitely knows something.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the whole snow thing...
The snow thing, that's got to be Ruby, isn't it? That's not the TARDIS doing that. That's Ruby doing that.
Because it happens again in
the next
Devil's Call.
It happens in the space station, in the TARDIS, when she was born. I mean, I don't know if that could have been her. That might not have been actual Snow. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or whoever her mum is. And it happens in the next episode in the studio.
I mean, yeah, I have a feeling now because of that episode.
There's a lot more in the second episode that sort of gives me a couple vague ideas,
which we will
get to.
We will get to. But yeah, I mean, it's left a lot of tidbits already, and that's just episode 1 as well.
Exactly, we've got 7 more.
I was really not expecting that scene where they start referring back to the church. In fact, because I thought this would be very much just a kind of a bog. I mean, it is just a bit of fluff, kind of telling you what the show's about. But I wasn't expecting kind of an element of it that was saying where we're going in the series, if that makes any sort of sense.
I mean, it feels, compared to like older Russell T Davies stuff, it's a bit early. Like stuff, sure. I think in episode 2 of series 2, is that when they meet Victoria, or episode 3? Very early on,
the Torchwood stuff.
That's when Torchwood sort of kicks off, and then in the series before, I think you get Bad Wolf almost straight away. Probably, I don't remember exactly.
I think it's like a line in End of the World.
Exactly.
So,
but in this, it's episode 1, and
it's quite a specific thing. It's like you need to have watched the Christmas one to know what we're talking about here.
And by the way, we said last week, we think on Disney Plus it's going to be episode 1 is the Christmas special, and that has happened. They said 3-episode premiere apparently.
So
on
Space Babies is episode 2
technically.
Wow, very strange.
Yeah, and then on iPlayer it says season 1 Christmas special episode 1 episode 2, which is a bit weird.
I mean, yeah, that
was a bit of a side note.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels a bit early, and it feels a bit sort of, especially in episode 2 at the very end, it's very signposted compared to what we got in the past, which was a poster on the back of a wall in a back alley, compared to just saying, somebody's coming.
Speaking of posters on that's not really relevant. Speaking of like another similar kind of thing, Susan Twist, she's back twice
in both. Yeah, she's in both episodes.
So we saw her. Is it the actress or the character? I think it's the actress.
The actress's name is Susan Twist,
which is very strange, given that there's a certain song that will pop up in the next one.
True.
But yeah, so Susan Twist,
and a character is mentioned with a similar name in the next one.
Is that in
with the name Susan?
Oh, with Susan.
Yeah.
Of course, in Devil's.
Anyway, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. But yes, she pops up twice. She pops up in Space Babies as a captain of one of the vessels.
Well, I don't know if she's a captain.
Oh, I do apologise.
Sorry. Well, based on they name dropped Star Trek. And as I said last week,
I knew this was going to come up.
I said it last week. I'm a Star Trek fan.
Here we go. He's off on one.
But Ruby says, it's like Star Trek. And then literally like 2 minutes later, we get these shots of people dressed like they're in Star Trek uniforms.
Yeah.
So I think there's one in blue, which is Susan, or she's in like a sort of cyany blue. And in Star Trek, that means medical. So she might be a doctor or a scientist or something. Of course. And then the other one, there's one in red, which is depending on what era of Star Trek.
Is that Jean-Luc Picard?
Yeah, Jean-Luc Picard, who in The Next Generation wears red. He's the captain. Right. So that's
so he's the captain.
So he could be the captain, assuming it's the same as Star Trek. And then I think there's another one I think they're in yellow, which is another Star Trek colour, and that's like engineering.
Right.
So they're the 3 colours. And they wear those 3 colours, I think.
Well, thanks for that.
Sorry, side
note. I knew you'd love that Star Trek reference.
Yes.
So, yeah. I mean, that was Space Babies, really.
That's most of it.
There's not a lot to discuss, really, because... Like I say, I think it was very much just you could see what it was trying to do. This is telling you. I mean, I was messaging a group chat of mine, and some friends were watching Space Babies, and they said, it's very much sort of this is Gallifrey is this, the TARDIS is this, all that sort of stuff. It kind of...
it's all that stuff that you said last week. We didn't get any of this TARDIS stuff at the end of the episode. Well, then we do that almost straight away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not all of it. She doesn't do the bigger on the inside line.
No.
But she's still sort of blown away by what's going on.
We talk about the police box thing, and we get the little trip to the past, which was quite a nice little gag.
I forgot about that.
I know.
I mean, they released that scene in advance. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you watched it early, but I ended up seeing it on TikTok.
I did watch that one. Yeah.
And I mean, it's a good little scene, but I think it would have been a bit funnier if we didn't know it was coming. Mm-hmm. And then they did the same thing with the Devil's Chord. They did the beginning scene again. They released that early. Although I didn't watch that, but I did see a thumbnail, so I knew a bit about it.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going with this.
Where? I was waiting for it.
Yeah, that's it. I just wish they didn't really release them early.
Yeah.
But seemingly they've not released anything early for next week, other than the end of Unleashed.
The end of the
which you've not seen.
Which I've not seen yet. So.
I've got a little nice fact about that, which I'll get to at the end of the next segment.
So yeah, Space Babies. Like I said, it left me a little bit wanting on that first viewing. I think because, again, a bit like when I first watched Church of Ruby Road, I kind of went in with expectations and I wanted it to be so good, you know. Watching it again, I enjoyed it a lot more. I think I was a bit less worried, if that makes sense. You know, I didn't have expectations. I could enjoy it for what it was. And yeah, I mean, it's not perfect by any means.
I'm not saying, I never said it was.
I think the pacing is a bit off, like we were saying. I think it's very quick. Like we said, you forget about that first scene in the Jurassic period completely. Because it's gone within seconds.
And when I was watching it, by the time it got to basically the end, when they saved the bogeyman, I thought, oh, okay, we're already finished. And there was a bit at the end where like, oh, we're going to save the babies and send them over here with a fart. But like by the time they actually finished the main plot of the episode, I'm like, oh, okay, it's finished now. Yeah. Like, I wish it was. I mean, I don't wish it was longer because the story itself isn't my favourite. But
it's already 46 minutes, which I mean, I know is shorter than what we're used to in recent days.
The Jodie episodes,
but it's the same length as we would have got for. You know, our early days new series episodes.
And I saw people online saying, oh, it just. There's a thing and they talk about it for 30 seconds and then there's a new thing and they talk about it for 30 seconds and there's a new thing and that's the entire episode.
It kind of
is. 46 new things that they talk about for about 30 seconds.
So maybe for a new viewer, this might be exactly what they're wanting.
Possibly,
it'd be really interesting actually to find someone who's never watched Doctor Who before who's started with this era. I really want to get a guinea pig and see what they think. But yeah, it kind of left me a bit wanting. But that's not to do it down because I think it was sort of sprinkled with some very nice moments. The nanny expletives thing.
That was very funny.
Very funny. I really enjoyed that.
Again, I forgot about that, but that
because
was really
there's so
funny.
Much, right? Yeah. And Murray was getting his paycheck for that episode because I don't think there was a moment of silence.
There was, and I wrote this down at the very beginning. This is Gallifrey Plays.
Does it really?
Right. That's from series 3.
Of course.
There's a bit I think where all the strange plays. I
think when the goblin,
when they're trying to save the bogeyman.
Yep.
And in the next episode, I Am the Doctor plays for a bit.
Oh, lovely.
I know. So he's really, and I was saying last week that I don't think he did enough in the Christmas special. I think, or maybe in the 60th special.
I think he overcompensated here.
And now he's doing. Now he's back on form.
There was so much music though, and it felt. I think that's what damaged the pacing a bit because when there's no time to breathe with the musical pause. I was getting, honestly, like I said to the...
You're saying that you're missing Sega and Akinola?
No. I think... But I had a similar kind of thing with Sagan because I think Sagan, there was slightly too much composed as well. And I think maybe it's a case with the editing. Maybe they get provided all these tracks and they're just like, use as much as you want. And
possibly,
they're like, oh, we'll just use all of it. I don't know. Different strokes, different folks.
Exactly.
Yes.
And also, there's one little thing. The Doctor says, my birth, at one point. So anyone who thinks looms are a thing, you can get
lost.
Sorry for my swearing.
And a little thing just to transition us over before the Devil's Chord. Yeah. They've fixed the title sequence.
Oh, of course.
What did you think?
I knew you'd be happy about this. Yeah. Personally, I like them both. To be honest, there's a bit in the middle. I know you don't like the first one, but the original 60th ones. You don't like PNG Gate?
No, I don't.
But there's a bit in the middle where they used to have that sort of smash cut.
Yeah.
Which is now just a slow zoom. I think they don't have a smash. There is
a
cut,
don't have the zoom in.
They don't have the cut zoom, but there is then a cut into the vortex. I think.
Yeah.
But there's that bit has been changed from like empty space to space with planets and stuff.
I do miss that a bit actually. Now you mentioned that.
The smash cut. I was not fond on the smash cut on the first viewing, but I sort of got used to it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit jarring, I think, for people who are starting this week with Church on Ruby Road, and then the title sequence changes. I mean, I've not gone back and checked. I assume it's been changed.
I'll be honest, Ben,
it's not been changed.
I don't think any new viewers will be that pedantic as much as we are. They won't even notice. Yeah. But I love how they've made some effort. I don't know whether that's as a result of either feedback from hearing fans.
I don't think so.
It's probably more of a case of they had a whole different concept for the 60th title sequence. You know, it was going to have that moment of the Doctor and Donna falling out the TARDIS, and they filmed it with Shooty and Millie.
Shooty and Millie.
So they were probably like, oh, well, we'll just have to cobble together what we can for now.
That's
and then
probably what that cut was for as well.
Probably exactly that. And also now the titles are actually in sync as well. So the Doctor Who logo comes on.
I forgot about that.
Whereas
I need to go back and listen.
If you watch the 60th ones, the is when the title of the episode comes on.
I think it's slightly, maybe not longer, but like it's been reorchestrated a bit because after the logo, it sort of keeps going a bit, whereas in the 60th, it just sort of very awkwardly cut.
Yeah. So, big thank you to the production team for sorting that, because that was
it was all down to your complaints.
I think it was. I think they heard, they were like, oh, God, Miles is pissed off with this. We better get on this and sort it.
Toy action figure guys complaining.
Idiots. So... Let's move on.
Should we move on?
The Devil's Chord.
Devil's Chord.
Now that's my jam.
This is your jam.
This is my jam.
Go on. Tell me what you loved about this episode and what you hated if you did.
There was a lot to love, I'm going to be honest. Now, I will accept, I think I might be being swept up in both the fact that I didn't think Space Babies was...
Yeah.
I thought the Space Babies was a bit more just a bit of fluff.
Yeah.
And so therefore the Devil's Chord could only be like... You know, if it was any better, then therefore, oh wow, it's so So maybe it's the fact that comparing it to the Space Babies, you know, and also the fact that I'm just getting swept up in the fun of it all, because as we all know, it's great to have a fun script, but you know, fun doesn't equal tight script and well plotted. You know, So, I think I'm well aware of that, but I bloody loved it. I loved it. And I think it had such... I mean, the Space Babies had that interesting message about, about birth and babies and all that sort of stuff. And it had a side of adoption and all that kind of thing. But I loved the message that Devil's Chord had of, it's a powerful message about the importance of the arts, of music, all that sort of stuff. And I watched this with Izzy, my girlfriend, who those of you who don't know, I don't know if they're clued up.
I mean, I've heard the name, I've never met them.
So, we watched this, and afterwards we just started playing some music, took out a guitar, played a few
Beatles
tunes, listened to Beatles
There's
music.
always a twist at the end.
Yeah, that one. And I Love My Dog
I Love My
as
Dog.
well. Which, as it started playing, she was like, is this an actual Beatles song? And I was like, no, it is not.
No.
But it just it makes you realise just how important that music is, and I think in this instance, Murray Gold really played.
He did a
blinder,
great job.
because it was so experimental, so different, so new. I loved it. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it had good bits.
Good bits.
It had great bits.
Right.
In fact, I mean, skipping to the end, I absolutely loved the song at the end.
Really?
Genuinely.
I'm not surprised, given how you loved the Goblin song. Yeah. I'm not surprised that you liked it.
I love the Goblin song. I mean, I don't know. I think the Goblin song is still on top.
The Goblin song is more of a song.
The Goblin song is also part of the plot, whereas this just sort of tacked on at the end.
Yeah.
And I've nothing against that. I really like the song. I think it's a really fun sequence. I think it's shot really well, and it's framed really well, and it's blocked out really well. And I think a lot of us were going into this episode thinking, oh, it's going to be a whole musical episode. And it was actually just one song at the end.
Did you think that Jinx was going to go into a song when she was talking about the toy maker? They were talking about the toy maker.
No.
No.
I didn't think that.
No, I just thought that there was a few bars and then they just started... Yeah, but then it stops very quickly.
I mean, bringing up Jinx. Jinx did nothing wrong, but I didn't like how Maestro was sort of... They were over the top a bit too much for me, and I understand the reason why you bring in a drag performer is to do that over the top sort of thing, but I don't know, I think it was too over the top,
right? But
it was nothing against Jinx. I mean, Jinx did exactly what the script wanted them to do, so that's great, but it was just, I don't know, I just was a bit uncomfy with how out there they were.
I thought that at first as well. I thought this is a bit over the top. It's very camp, which I mean it's great in Doctor Who.
It's Doctor Who, and Doctor Who is camp.
But then I just thought back to Neil Patrick Harris as the toy maker, and I was like, realistically, I know he was a bit more understated.
Yeah,
but it's the same. I mean, they're literally cut from the same cloth.
They are literally. They are.
The father is the toy maker. So Oh, and can I just say, when the giggle came up, I cacked my pants. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Lovely.
The thing about this connection as well with the toy maker and Maestro, which I think is brilliant and it makes perfect sense. I feel like if you're going to bring in this massive new baddie, part of a pantheon of gods, as Russell puts it in Unleashed.
The pantheon.
Why is it so early in the season?
Why not?
Unless that means we're going to get loads of gods this season as baddies, which is possible.
I think that's the case. I mean, you've got the one who waits, the toy maker, the Jinx. It's kind of like this is the thread. The thing.
We don't get that, I'm going to think it's really strange that we got the Maestro in as like the first big baddie.
I see what you mean, because it's like episode 2. You don't expect such a powerful, and because they were big and Jinx coming up as a big powerful enemy. Like Maestro is that, and for episode 2, that's like. I mean, bloody hell!
What's going to happen in the rest of the series?
Ruby's had a real time of it to go from babies to.
Although there's a 6-month gap.
Yeah, I don't know what I thought of that.
Yeah, so the episode begins with "Where Are You Now?" about June 2024, which is actually next month.
Yeah.
Which is possibly a finale thing, because they did that in series 5.
They tried to.
The finale
They
was
got the
set
finale
on the
bang
date
on.
of the finale.
Gosh, yeah.
26th of June 2010. I remember it well. But yeah, they jumped forward about 6 months. And now it's probably not going to be 6 months from the Doctor and Ruby's perspective.
Sure.
Because I assume they'll go off on an adventure and be dropped off a week later, or a month later, or a couple of weeks later, or something like that. But there is a 6-month time gap, which is weird for episode 2. Maybe mid-season it would be all right, because we've missed a lot of their getting used to each other-isms.
Yeah.
And like, there's a comic series which a lot of people are saying, that must be set in this thing where they meet the Cybermen. So if that's canon, and I say canon in quotes because I know nothing in Doctor Who is canon, but if that's like what's intended, they've met the Cybermen off screen and they're just not going to show us on the show.
I suppose the idea is that it's a bit like the 14th Doctor. How
with scripts.
Yeah, a bit like the 14th Doctor. How they've got like a space between Star Beast and Power of the Doctor. That kind of time when there can be new adventures. I think Russell's probably got a mindset of like, I've just knocked my notepad there. I'm very sorry, listeners. I think Russell's kind of like, well, let's give them a little time span that they can set new stories. But to me, that's like the prime period for character development is that early few days, right?
Yeah.
So I don't quite know why that was necessary.
Yeah, and as far as I'm aware, in most of Russell's series, as long as I can remember, they don't do that. It's basically every episode is set almost directly after the last one.
Yeah.
I think Fear Her is one of the first ones where there's a noticeable gap. But the rest are basically
but Fear Her is at the end of the series,
starts.
right? It's like,
and it's at the end,
and obviously Rose and the
Rose
Doctor
is about to leave.
Yeah, so it's like that's fine, and Clara, for those early episodes, I think they were pretty tight together. It was early days,
and then later on it sort of becomes, when the Doctor's around, I'll join him on an adventure.
But
she's
that was
not
a
with
series
him all the time.
later, right?
Yeah, and it's the same with Amy and Rory. Series 1 is literally all set one after another, in between the night before their wedding and their wedding. And then in series 6, it sort of becomes, the Doctor's here, let's go on an adventure.
Yeah. So I don't quite know.
So I'm assuming the idea is it's that setup. The Doctor's here, let's go on an adventure. And it's been 6 months since they first started doing that.
That's the thing, we don't quite know.
But we don't know for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's a tiny thing at the end of the day.
No, it is.
I love it when the Doctor took Ruby to 2024 and was like, there you go, which is pretty much beat for beat a scene from Pyramids of Mars. Do you know about this?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, Tom Baker's story from 1976.
Very good.
When Sarah Jane says, well, why don't we just go to the future? And the Doctor's like, well,
everything's fine.
1981, if you want to get off, Sarah. And there you go. It's looking like a wasteland. And as they looked out of London, I was like, I mean, it looks no different to how it looks right now. The Cosy Lives crisis and all that sort of stuff. So
Cosy Lives.
How can she tell a difference?
Yeah, it's a bit strange, actually. I mean, this is a tiny critique. But in that scene where they leave the TARDIS in 2024, and there's a 60s London bus destroyed in the background.
Is there?
There is, yeah. And then as they a bit later on, Maestro shows them this shot of the London Eye in ruins. I thought, well, what is it? Is it the 60s or is it post London Eye? Because there's about 30 years between there, isn't there?
I guess it's not like the world ended in the 60s.
No.
It's just that it's slowly degraded
in this universe,
they
used old buses a lot longer.
Yeah, but they did invent the London Eye.
Yeah,
a big round circular object.
Yes,
must be completely invisible.
Yeah, like a dish sort of thing.
Yeah. round.
That's interesting. And just before that scene, there's a bit that kills me on the inside where Ruby says, "I was born in 2004."
Oh, I think everyone died a bit inside, you know?
I mean, when they revealed Millie as the companion, I was watching it live, and I was with a couple sort of TV execs as we were watching it, just by coincidence. I just happened to be in the room with them.
Well, you always sit with them, don't they? They come to your house,
we're best mates. Me and all these BBC execs.
Yeah.
And I think they knew it was coming because they were working on the show.
Right.
But I just I Googled it because I had no idea who she was. And then I just said out loud, "Oh my God, she's younger than me." And they all looked at me like, "Yeah, and?" Because they're used to it, because they're probably twice my age.
Exactly. Welcome to our world.
Exactly, yeah. And they probably don't care about Doctor Who as much as I do.
Utterly tragic. I can't.
It's scary.
It's very scary. But there you go. You know, she was
We
born...
could have been in the TARDIS.
We could have been
by this age,
if our
years
lives,
ago.
Yeah, if we'd sorted our lives out. Yeah, but
although statistically we might be dead as well. So.
Well, yeah, we would have been if the Maestro had got to the world in 1963. A bit of a segue there.
I know. Back to the episode.
Yeah, wasn't Jinx terrifying though as the Maestro?
There were bits where they were absolutely terrifying. There's the bit where they just completely changed from high-pitched sort of girly voice to "and now I'm gonna kill you," which was just horrible impression.
That was really bad.
But it was genuinely that was whoa, that's some proper acting here,
fantastic.
And I'm loving this.
I think the bit that was really creepy, and again watching this with Izzy, she was terrified when the Maestro makes their first entrance and comes up through the piano with the little knock on the piano lid. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really creepy because kids will be going to piano lessons now thinking, can you make sure you put the lid up because I want to make sure
nothing crawls out.
Very creepy, very good.
Yeah.
And I think that the costume that they had by the end of the episode, that sort of almost toy maker-esque outfit, and the kind of the clown makeup, very scary. And I almost thought that they were going to morph into some sort of spider creature, or you know, just the way that Jinx moved their body was fantastic.
It was alien. It was alien-esque.
It was very,
so what they said in Unleashed, I was going to say confidential again there. I'm never going to get used to that. But what they said in Unleashed was Jinx is a stage actor. Yeah. So on stage, when you're acting, you've sort of got to be over the top and big so that people at the back of the theatre can see you.
Yeah.
Whereas on TV, you can do those small movements because the camera's right in your face.
Yeah.
But they carried that over the stage presence into the programme. And in some points, I think that's why I'm saying maybe they were a bit much and they were a bit too much for this. But in other bits, it was absolutely perfect. And they did multiple takes. So they did one, they only show a couple in Unleashed. And it's right at the end when they say the one who waits is coming.
Yeah.
And it ranges from basically just their lips being coming out of the piano.
Yeah.
And there's a bit where there's a different take where it's the whole lid is open and their arms wide and they're the one who waits is coming.
Oh,
and then
my God! So they kind of
did
loads
versions. Of massive different versions of it. And this is their first TV role as well. They say that in Unleashed. So again, I think that leads to some bits where I'm saying maybe they're a bit too much. But then it adds to these amazing moments
because
as well.
it's a theatrical character.
It is. It very much so is. Yeah.
And if you're going to go for it, go for it.
Exactly.
And I think they totally did. And and I think it worked. Definitely. I think I can understand why, like you say, it might come across as a bit too much. But once you get to grips with what it's trying to do, I think that they pitched the performance really well for
once you get used to it, you get used to it.
And I think that's the whole thing with the episode, and I think that the epitome of knowing that you've got on board with it is when the song comes at the end, and you can't help, well, personally, you can't help but smile and think, I'm having a great time. One thing we will mention as well, a bit more understated perhaps, the Beatles.
Yes.
So a big deal was made about them being in this
talking about
episode.
Them.
I don't know that the point is that Ruby's like, let's go and see them.
There's only really two of them in this episode, I'll be honest.
Basically, I don't think Ringo said a word.
No.
And I think George, I barely caught his lips moving in that final bit, and that was it, really. And then Russell talked in Doctor Who magazine. He was sort of like, well, I had to make sure I got I'm not going to do the impression.
I don't even know what you're trying to do then.
I know, neither do I. He sort of said, I have to I sort of went, I really have to get their voices right and I have to do them respect. And I watched all of the Get Back documentary and all that sort of stuff. And I sort of thought, it was only 3 or 4 lines of them in the studio with that little banter.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, you've got the bit in the canteen with the Doctor and Paul and Millie and John.
And they do sound like Beatles. To be fair to these actors who don't look like Beatles.
Are you a Beatles fan?
Not much.
I mean,
I'm aware of
only
the
just
Beatles.
finished watching all of Get Back, and I've been listening to a lot recently because of all this.
Yeah.
Big Beatles fan. I think Paul did his own thing, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
John, really good.
So they interviewed John and Paul in the, I don't know the actors' names, I'm afraid.
Neither do I.
In Confidential.
Yeah.
And John literally says there's a bit where he says, I'm not trying to do an impression.
Yeah.
Because if I do an impression, people will think that's a bad impression. Yeah. And all they'll be thinking is, that's an impression, that's an impression, that's an impression.
Uh-huh.
But then I thought the same as you, that they sounded brilliant and they sounded just, well, maybe not just like them, but very much like John Lennon.
Yeah. I honestly think that, considering as well that he said that he wasn't doing one.
And they're all from the Northwest as well. I think he might be from Liverpool, from what his voice sounded like in the interview. But and interestingly enough, the woman who plays Cilla Black is also from Liverpool.
Really?
Based on her accent, yeah.
Oh, great.
But then the other fellow who plays Paul definitely has a northern accent, and I think it's Northwest somewhere. It's a bit more sort of a vague accent.
He was in Flux.
Was he?
Yeah. He was in Survivors of the Flux. I've read this in Doctor Who magazine.
Okay.
I'm not enough of a fan to have known that, but I think he was in Survivors of the Flux, and
was he one of the survivors of the Flux?
I think it was a bit in Liverpool when they're sort of trekking about the place.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
He's just sort of an extra in Liverpool,
essentially. But he said he had a few lines. So
cool. They didn't mention that at all in Unleashed.
Yeah. But there you go. For what they did in it, I actually thought it was quite well handled. I mean, you know, I sound like I'm saying like, oh, there needed to be more, oh, it needed to be better. I think what they did was fine. It was great. And it'd be nice to have another Beatles thing later down the line, because I do love the Beatles, and I think the Beatles and Doctor Who is
rights to Beatles music.
Yeah, well, you know, they played California Soul. I know that's not a Beatles song, but like they played that, and I was like, well, so you could buy the rights to that, but not. But Beatles songs must be.
Oh, they're extremely expensive.
Yeah,
I was watching it when California Soul played. I was thinking, is this a real song, or have they written this? And then eventually I thought, oh yeah, no, I have heard this before. This isn't made exactly for Doctor Who. But I was like, well, it's interesting that they can. I thought, you know, if they're not going to buy anything, if they're not going to buy any Beatles, just don't buy anything.
I mean, you know what I did think? I was like, if you had the budget for one Beatles song, I mean, power to Murray for composing a song at the end. You know, the twist
of course
at the
Murray makes a cameo in this as well.
He does indeed. Yeah. I mean, he's probably trying to get away from composing the Series 10 soundtrack and releasing that.
Sure.
But at what point was I talking about?
Murray composing.
I'm probably waffling some nonsense. Oh yeah, so yeah,
that's all this is. Waffling nonsense.
That's all this is. Power to Murray for composing that song at the end.
Yeah.
The twists at the end. But if you had the budget for a Beatles song, Twist and Shout, pop that at the end. It's their first album. It's got twist in the title, so you can still have the old twist. There's always a twist at the end.
And then
exactly, it still works.
Yeah.
And then you've got a great song that they can be dancing to. Cuts to the Beatles in the studio. Obviously, that's a pipe dream.
I mean, I'm sure they tried.
I'm sure they tried.
They said, "Oh, what's the cheapest?" Or can we negotiate? I'm sure they did the whole.
And it's probably one
of
Ringo's sort of ones that on an album that no one remembers, and they were like, "Well, you know what? Forget it then."
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Now, while we're talking about music, I'm a bit of a music nerd.
Yeah, go for it.
And this point I was going to make, you've sort of helped me understand why it's done this way. When you sent me a message just before we started about the year 1925. Because I was thinking, oh, the actual Devil's Chord or Devil's Tritone, as I was taught in my music GCSE days.
Yeah.
Da-na-na. Fun fact, that's Maria.
Careful,
from West Side
Jinx is
Story.
going to come out of our recording equipment if you're not careful.
It's been used for centuries. This Devil's Tritone.
The character says, doesn't he? He's like, it was, you know, churches don't like using this, you know, so they know about it.
It's a thing that people know about, and I thought, well, if that's the case,
Why now?
Why now? Why 1925? And also, why 1925 when the episode is set in the 60s?
Yeah.
Why have that 40-year time gap? And the reason is, it's the same year that the Toymaker appeared in...
The same year that Stooky Bill became active,
Exactly.
shall we say.
It's the same year as the Toymaker did his thing, or at least when he started in The Giggle.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because I was going to say, why? Because we've known about it for centuries and people have played it for centuries. So why is it a big thing now? Yeah. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
But then at the very end, the chord that saves the day is just sort of a really basic, normal, boring major chord.
No, I've heard this. I
which
know.
is really weird.
It was a very strange because it didn't have any significance.
No, it was just a normal chord.
I'm assuming the notes of that chord were ones that Paul talked about in the canteen. He's like,
Yes,
I have a dream of...
Someone-
Can I just say that was an awful Paul impression? That was
fine.
more of a George.
I wasn't going to mention
He was
anything.
probably there going, I have dreams of...
Fair enough, yeah.
I'm going to stop.
Yeah, I see where you're going.
Yeah.
But
he mentioned some notes.
Someone mentioned to me that the chord they play that saves the day is a chord from a Beatles song.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either.
I thought have you heard Hard Day's Night?
Yes, yeah. I thought that was going to be the chord, but I guess that's too famous and they wouldn't get the rights.
Sure,
but that's a chord.
It's a chord.
Anyway, I'm not going to get into it. Yeah. But someone said, "Oh, it's from a Beatles song," and I said, "Oh, yeah, sure," because I thought, well, it's a major chord. Any chord can be the first chord of a Beatles song.
Yeah,
you can just change the key, and it's literally any major chord.
Because what did you think of them saving the day?
It's a very strange. I don't know the way. So it starts with Shooty with the Doctor on the piano, and he plays a note.
Yeah,
and then Maestro's like, "Oh God," and you can see that Maestro sort of heals back in pain or something, and then the Doctor plays another note, and it's just like I don't know the exact interval, but it is, you can hear the sounds of a start of a major chord,
right? And
oh no, it's horrible. And then he keeps going, and the Doctor keeps playing more notes, and then it gets to the one before last, and Jinx is on the floor almost in pain, and then the Doctor plays the wrong note, and everything's fine. But like, you haven't actually played the chord until, I don't know, and it just keeps going, and then the piano gets knocked out the room, but it's still sort of loading the chord on top. You can see the floaty, glowy notes.
Yeah,
and also that doesn't make any sense because there's no bars to tell you what those notes are, and I think there's one point where the actual pitch of the note goes up, but the note is below, which isn't how music works.
John probably walked up, saw those glass notes over, and was like, "What have I taken in that studio? That's awful." I swear I'm better at Beatles impressions.
But there
than
is
this.
a bit where they mention, some tea, but I'll have something stronger later, and I thought, that's a drug joke, I assume.
100%.
But yeah, I just think the music nerd in me does not like anything to do with the music lore.
Yeah,
like the Devil's Tritone has been the thing for centuries, and then the chord that resolves it is a really boring major chord that the Doctor doesn't. And the Doctor, I know he's not famously a musician. Well, 12 was, but the Doctor doesn't know how to play a piano. They've been around for centuries,
and they've
for millennia, and they don't even know how a piano works.
Yeah,
that confuses me.
That's so interesting, because Izzy's a big music sort of connoisseur as well, shall we say? And I think all the music stuff bugged her so much that she was. I prefer Space Babies because this one just got on my nerves.
Maybe that was the same with me. Yeah. Maybe that's why I don't like it.
Apparently, Jinx in the first bit when Maestro starts playing the notes and that guy, I forget the name, Timothy Drake.
Yes.
When he starts getting
Timothy Drake a real person? No. Okay, cool.
I think it's a Batman. Robin.
It's a Robin name. Yeah. Because originally when that scene was like, oh, maybe this is a real guy, and that's why they're in 1925. But no, it's the Toymaker thing.
Yeah. But Jinx Maestro starts playing some notes, and I think
those are very obviously not what the sound is.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of that, I think, in this episode.
From the off, as he was like, oh god, this is going to be one of those ones where people aren't actually playing the piano. But to be fair, they got a really good double for Millie Gibson.
They did,
when
and
she plays
that's in
her theme.
Unleashed, and you see that in Unleashed very briefly, but there is
we
a bit
knew about
in that.
this as well, though, didn't we?
Oh, did we?
On set, I think someone took a picture of, was it a trailer door or something that said Ruby Sunday and in brackets piano double.
Oh, okay.
And people were like, obviously music's going to be quite a big part of this.
The song she plays, I think I'm right in saying this, but the song that Ruby plays on the piano is the song that was called Ruby's theme in the musical extravaganza last year.
It's literally her theme.
Yeah, I mean, I only say that sort of sort of questionably because we haven't actually heard it in the show until this point. So technically it might not be her theme, but they might have just called it that because they needed to call it something.
Sure. But I think Murray's used it in...
Has he?
Because it was in Ruby Road and
okay,
all
right.
Because
I haven't memorised it yet because it's not as big as the Doctor's theme was.
I love it. I think it's beautiful. It's like kind of...
It is good though.
It's literally a waltz, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's gorgeous. And lovely scene when they play that over London and the image gets brighter, the contrast, comes up a bit. We see June Hudson. Do you know?
Yes, I saw this. She's the costume designer of the Fourth Doctor of Tom Baker.
Fourth Doctor designed his season 18 outfit and all that sort of stuff. So beautiful moment, beautiful scene.
I remember a lot of people in the trailer thought that was going to be an old Ruby.
They did, yeah. I think we all knew that was
nonsense,
yeah. A lot of that stuff. People thought Maestro, like, Maestro, Italian for master.
Yes.
Ooh,
wrong.
It's a brand new villain, and I love that we've got this supernatural touch. I think Ben Chisel, I think his name, the director.
The director, yes.
I think that he did a fantastic job of kind of saying, this is what we're dealing with now, and it was very experimental in the look, the visuals. I loved the whole scene in the far future when we clicked into darkness, spotlight on the piano. The far future being this year we are currently in. Yeah. And as I said, not too far from what it's looking like.
A month's time, I think. June 2020. Oh my God, that's going to happen next month.
Get ready.
Nuclear
Keep playing
war.
them tunes. Tunes.
That bit where it was in that studio dark set, that was amazing.
It's harking back. I'm assuming that he would have got a lot of influence from how Chanya Button, who did the Giggle.
Oh yes.
I think that obviously set a lot of, in terms of all the Toymaker scenes. I think that kind of set the standard for like, this is what these characters are going to be like.
What they're like.
Yeah, I particularly loved a simple shot of when Maestro comes out of the piano in that first scene, and Timothy Drake, he drops the piano lid back down, it slams shut, and you think, they're going to have to open it again, and the camera just pans over, and Maestro's just sat there with Henry Harbinger.
Henry Harbinger.
Harbinger. Very good.
I was going to say something. Who is that kid? Because he comes back.
He does.
At the end.
There's always a twist at the end.
There's always a twist, and he's the twist at the end.
I've seen some, slight spoilers.
Something for season 2.
For season 2, I don't know whether that might play into it.
Yeah, there is a Harbinger reference that we've seen on set.
So who knows? I guess
that probably means more gods who need more Harbingers.
100%. Gods of what,
Yes, yeah.
Who is the one who waits?
Who's the one who waits? We don't know. Is it Ruby's mum? Dad? Is it Ruby?
Is it Ruby? I think there's a supernatural thing going on with Ruby,
Something's up with Ruby.
Ruby, I think...
Let's get into Ruby, yeah.
Here's my little theory now.
Cool.
Originally, I think last time I said, I think Ruby's her own mother, or something like that.
Yeah, well, I thought that the woman dropping off Ruby at the church was Ruby.
I think that's dead certain now, because the whole snow thing, I think Ruby is the one causing the snow herself.
It's definitely Ruby causing the snow, because it happens in the TARDIS, it happens on the space station, and it happens in Abbey Road.
It happens in the TARDIS?
It does, at the very end of Space Babies.
Really?
After they leave, there's snow in the TARDIS,
Right, I didn't
when the scan is on the thing.
I'm not sure I was focusing on the scan more than...
The Doctor walks out and says, I used to be called ... which is an interesting thing to tease.
I'll be honest, I didn't quite like that, but I know it was just me being a Scrooge.
And as he says that, the snow starts to fall inside the TARDIS. And then it also happens on the Space Baby station and in Abbey Road. And another thing, sorry, it just came into my head. The song that plays, Carol of the Bells, which a bit weird for me because it is May and it's a Christmas song and it felt really strange.
It did, didn't it? I didn't quite get what the significance of that was.
Well, I'm going to get into this. It played in the Christmas special. Which I noticed at Christmas, and then I noticed last week, and then I noticed again. I thought, that was in the Christmas special. Right. And the person that I watched it with today, who was a friend of my girlfriend's flatmate, who I don't know the name of.
Genuinely,
I've only met her today.
Wow.
She said,
I hope she didn't listen to this podcast.
I hope she doesn't either. She said, I think that Ruby, because Maestro is the spirit of music, and the Toymaker is the spirit of play. She said, I think Ruby is the spirit of Christmas.
Oh my God. Because the Doctor says, what is it with you and Christmas?
Exactly. And babies. Maybe she's the spirit of babies.
Thank you, random tangential stranger.
I do not know her name, and I'm so sorry if you're listening to this.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That is really I like that.
And I like how neither of us came up with it. It's
Yes.
just someone who hasn't
They're
even...
doing our job for us.
Someone who I had to explain The Timeless Child to today.
Yeah.
Because they were asking me, how do you feel about this adoption stuff? I was like, oh yeah, well, I dealt with it 4 years ago.
Sure.
And they're like, oh, 4 years ago? So yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, what a theory.
What a theory.
And it could be bollocks.
But, I mean, so is 90% of everyone's theories about Doctor Who.
Especially by episode 2.
Yeah, I mean... I'm very interested to see where it's all going to go, though, you know, because we've seen bits in the trailer with that whole... The snow thing is becoming a bigger thing than I thought it would, you know. We saw that bit in the trailer of... I think maybe it's from the next episode, or maybe 73 yards of Ruby sort of holding her hands up and a snow flourish is coming towards her.
I don't remember that. I'll have a look at some trailers.
I heard another theory about the whole snow thing. I think this
I
was
might know
via
what
the Review of Death
Yes, I
podcast,
know
one
what
of
you're
our
gonna say.
rivals.
Yes.
Mentioning that it was to do with the salt.
It's the salt
that 14 sprinkles.
Yeah. It could be.
It could be, but it's
Probably
not.
isn't.
So yeah, I mean, really interesting. But let's I mean, if we've got nothing else to say, let's end with that song. Let's end with the twist at the end.
Yes.
What did you think?
I loved it.
You loved it? Yeah.
Genuinely, I think it's a bop.
How
I
do
know
you
I
think
said
of the
that
way
about
they
the Goblin song.
executed it?
Well, it's a big fourth wall break.
It is a big fourth wall break.
And we've had a lot of them in the last, I think all 3 shooty episodes we've had fourth wall breaks.
We were in Space Babies.
Maybe not.
No.
But we've definitely had fourth wall breaks.
We've had 2.
Yeah.
And a wink as well, 2 winks.
Yeah, because Maestro winks at the camera, as well as
Do they?
15. Yeah.
Oh.
So the bit where Maestro's about to kill June Hudson,
they wink at the camera
before they close the curtains.
I didn't notice that.
Maestro does a big wink to camera.
I see.
Yeah.
Right.
And then 15 does it right before the song kicks off.
Oh, okay, right.
So we're definitely getting fourth wall breaks.
Okay. Well, there you go. I mean, I didn't know that. Sorry.
What are you writing down?
I'm making notes because I just thought of something in my head and I didn't want to forget about it. I'm being professional. So yeah, no, I didn't notice that, but
yeah.
I don't know. I liked, like
it's
I said,
stuck in my head currently. I'm singing the song in my head.
Yeah. I liked.
There's always a song in my head.
I was smiling, like I said, through the whole thing. I think it could have done with a reason behind it, because I was sort of, as it was getting near that moment, I was like, they must use this song as the way to bring music back into the world. You know?
I was watching the whole episode and I thought, well, I know there's a song coming because I've seen the trailers.
Yeah.
I know there's a song. And then the episode basically resolves and I think,
where was it?
What's the song going to...
Yeah.
How is this going to... And then he just cuts to the song.
Yeah.
And I guess that's probably the best way of doing it, because you don't have to work it into the plot then.
Yeah.
But
also, in terms of the song itself, it felt very much like, in musicals, you get a reprise. That's
yes.
Yeah, it felt like a reprise of a song.
But it wasn't reprising
anything.
Yeah.
Because it felt like there was no build up to it. It just jumped straight in. I was like, whoa! I mean, I've already got whiplash from Space Babies, and now I've been punched in the face by this song. It felt a bit too out of nowhere. But then when I say all this, I'm like, but it was fun. There's no denying that it was fun.
I think it's great.
And I mean, when Shirley Ballas and Johannes from Strictly.
Yes, I don't watch Strictly, so I didn't know who they were, but they do an interview in Unleashed.
Yeah.
I thought, they've gotten some people from Strictly, which makes a lot of sense.
I cacked my pants. I thought that was insane. You know, I'm on and off Strictly. You know, I'll watch it from time to time.
I think I only ever watched it when it was on before Doctor Who.
But I think what a real coup, because people will know them, and I'm sure it makes no bloody sense.
No.
Why are they in the 60s?
No.
But beautifully choreographed. I was actually listening to the podcast. Have you listened to the podcast? The official podcast?
Oh, no, I haven't listened to our rivals, the official Doctor Who podcast.
But I was listening to
the one that they've controversially recast everyone and brought in people that no one's ever heard of to guest.
Yeah, they've shaken up the format a bit.
Yeah. I think it was a new producer and they went, I'm going to get some new people in. I don't care about these guys we had on.
I'm going to take time to warm to it. But anyway, they interviewed Johannes on that, and he was sort of praising the choreography of that.
Fair enough.
And brilliant.
Yeah. The guy who choreographed it is the guy who choreographs Bridgerton.
Well, there you go.
This is so Bridgerton.
Who knows if they're going to come back for episode 6? But
that's what I thought when they said that, and he said in Unleashed, I love the fact that they asked me to do this, and I'm never going to say no, because I'm the guy who does all the 16th century Georgian stuff,
there's no
and I want to do some swinging 60s
Yeah.
stuff. And it was him who wanted to do Twist. That's what he said. I don't know if the song was written because he said I wanted to do a twist for the 60s.
And we've got Susan Twist. There's a lot of
Susan
twists.
Twist.
Susan Twist, the one who waits, Ruby, Mrs. Flood. There's all these things. And
talking about Susans, they mentioned Susan.
Yeah.
And the Doctor apparently was living in 1963 in February, which makes sense because I guess they knew who Susan was.
Oh, if you've read
November.
the expanded media, they were probably living there for about 10 years.
Fair enough. Gotcha.
Stuff they cram in.
But then it made me think, oh, well, if the Doctor is there now in this weird alternate 1963...
Did they know?
Is it an alternate 1963? Or was there just no music, no good music for 40 years?
I'm assuming it was an alternate thing, yeah.
But then at the end of the episode, they don't go back and fix it. They just sort of leave it as it was. So does that mean from now on, canonically, again in air quotes, there's just no good music for 40 years?
I think retrospectively it's kind of retconned.
It's fixed itself.
Yeah, the whole timeline. Yeah. It's weird. The more we're talking about The Devil's Chord, the more I'm kind of like, in fairness, that was a bit...
There's a lot of weird
It's a bit strange. That was a bit... And as I said when we started to talk about this episode, I think that just because something's fun doesn't automatically make it good. But you've got to judge an episode on its vibe as well, and I had a great time with it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But 100%, I'll admit that it has its flaws. It has its flaws.
So I'm hoping that, because I think the first 2 episodes were a bit iffy for me.
Sure.
And I'm hoping the next one is solid.
Sure.
And it's written by Stephen Moffat.
It is.
Who often has very solid episodes under Russell T Davies' watch.
Yeah.
And the thing I was talking about earlier with this thing I noticed in Unleashed, you know how it's about a battlefield?
Yeah.
The people on the battlefield are the clerics.
I was thinking whether the clerics.
There's a shot in Unleashed, and it's a soldier, but he's got a little papal priest's collar on.
Perfect.
So I saw that and I went, oh, it's the church guys, because I forgot what they were called.
I'm sure. I'm sure we'll get loads of references to other Moffat
and they've released
episodes,
a picture now, a promo image of this guy holding a gun,
Amazing.
And he's got this cleric's collar on.
So we're going to be flashing back to some time of Angels.
And someone said apparently it's set on Villengard as well. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
We will see.
But I'm excited.
I think that episode 3 is going to be very much a different vibe.
Yes. And I'm happy for that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the word I could probably use to sum up both of these episodes is Disney. I think that it really feels like there is that has become an influence. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I think that is a thing.
And we won't be able to know whether it's a bad thing for a while off yet.
We've got to give it time.
Exactly.
And I think that it's a 2-episode premiere, and I think I think it was done quite intentionally to be, because Space Babies is... It's doing a job more than telling a story in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So Devil's Chord therefore had to be bolted with it. And Devil's Chord is a very big, bold... It's not a typical Doctor Who story in a lot of ways. It just isn't. So to have those two back to back, I get it. It feels like a bit of a oof, And as I've said, messaging these friends, these are people from uni. These aren't Doctor Who fans.
Okay.
Well, they are. They enjoy Doctor Who. They'll tune in.
Did you force them to watch Flux?
So they watched it of their own free will.
Oh
actually.
My god!
I'll be honest. Bit of a tangent. When the Halloween Apocalypse came out, I was loving it. There was mates texting me going, "You know what? I've given Doctor Who a go. It's really good." Yeah, and we were I'd watched it a good few times that week. It was fantastic. Shame about how it resolved, but Anyway, these are people who aren't die-hard fans, but they were really hyped to start watching. One of them really enjoyed the vibe, was loving it. Another one, Rennie, shout out to you if you're listening to the podcast, Rennie, said, "You know what? It feels like this isn't really an era for me." And he was like, "And you know what? That's fine. I'm not going to be negative about it and start spewing. Oh, this is crap. This is bad." He just said, "This isn't for me."
Yeah.
And I think that's totally fair enough. And maybe this series won't be for some people, because it is it has got a very specific vibe at the minute.
Yeah,
I think episode 3 is going to really tell us, is that the soul vibe, or are they going to shake things up?
Yeah.
And it's Doctor Who, so I have a feeling that next week will be quite different.
Looking forward at the next couple episodes, from what we know about the next couple episodes, I think the tone is going to go a bit more serious.
Sure.
I mean, Russell has said in the build-up to this series is going to be fun. It's not going to be dark and dreary like most TV shows are at the moment, because the world sucks and I want to cheer people up. But I think looking at the next one's set in the middle of a war, and then later on we've got this political thing with I can't remember the names of the characters, but there's a political story.
Roger Aquilum or something like that.
Yes, exactly. And then later on we've got 73 Yards, which is apparently going to be a bit of a horror story or something like that. Welsh sort of folk horror.
Social media commentary and Dot and Bubble. We've got Bridgerton episodes.
So I think things are going to get more serious, and it started off with a fun and happy tone.
Yeah,
and we're going to see where it goes. And if it doesn't sort of calm down a bit, maybe this won't be for me. I don't know. But I'm enjoying it. But I want it to be a bit more substantial. At the moment, it's just sort of space babies. Oh, we're going to do a song. But still, I'm enjoying it, and I'm going to enjoy it. Like regardless, I enjoyed Flux even though I didn't like Flux. You know,
I get what you mean.
So like, I'm still gonna love Doctor Who.
I think we're on the same page with this. I think that you're right. You can enjoy something regardless of the fact of whether it's a a solid script, and I'm not saying that it isn't. I think it's all the people behind it have done a fantastic job, and I've had a great time with it.
Exactly,
it's been very fun.
Exactly,
but this is a new era. This is a new vibe. So. I'm still excited to see where it all goes, and I'm very much excited for next week.
I am really excited for next week. Yeah,
because who knows where it will go, and I think that's really all we can say this week. To be honest.
I think so. I'll just double check my notes.
I mean, I don't think there's any more to kind of go into.
No.
If you at home listening have anything that you wanted to
if you want to get in contact with us,
please
let us know.
And you can do that
by
going to Twitter, and finding us at Knowing Who.
Yes,
no
that's
spaces.
At Knowing Who, no spaces.
Yeah, and where can they find you, Ben? If they want to just pester you individually.
Well, if they go to the Knowing Who bio, I'm there. I'm tagged. So is Miles, but my Twitter account is Ben P Davidson. David with a D. 2 Ds, unlike Davison, like the Fifth Doctor.
That was very long-winded. You didn't need to.
I know, sorry, but every time I hear someone say Peter Davidson, I get annoyed because I know it's not spelled that way.
All fans do.
I know.
Yeah. Even Doctor Who magazine got it wrong back in the day. I know.
Anyway, and where can they find you, Miles?
At Tailored Vision on Twitter, and on the Knowing Who page, you find our link tree, and you'll be able to find wherever we are.
Yes, and we're on TikTok now.
We are on TikTok
as of a couple of days ago.
We are on TikTok.
Yes, I did a little highlight.
Go and give it a watch.
Yeah.
We'll be trying to drop a few of those. Now and then.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. We'll drop one every day, won't we, Ben?
It took me 5 hours to make that one. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
We're dropping one a year.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you very much for listening. And we will see you
in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks' time for Boom and 73 Yards.
Nice. Yeah. Can't wait.
I'm very excited.
Me too.
So just remember, there's always a twist at the end.
Yeah, very good.
That wasn't that great, was it?
No, he told me, I think before we started recording, he said, I know how I'm going to end this one.
It's not as good as We'll Give It a Go, Babes, is it?
We'll give it a go, babes. He's still saying babes. Sorry, I'm going back to analysis. The doctor still says babes.
We will see you next time.
Bye.
Enjoy. Boom. You've been listening to Knowing Who, another Doctor Who podcast with me, Miles Taylor.
And me, Ben Davidson. Thank you to Sonny King for producing our theme tune.
And thank you to you for listening. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, plus YouTube on the Tailored Vision YouTube channel.
You can also follow us on Twitter at Knowing Who.
Catch you next time for more Knowing Who.